On Monday, we will be a week away from training camp. So if you're not signed up for NewOrleans.Football, make sure you do that today. Use the code NOF to save 20% off your first payment. Get locked in, get the training camp reports every single day, all of our news, our analysis, everything you need to know to the buildup of the 2024 season. Visit NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Use the code NOF, 20% off your first payment. Welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJs Coffee. We're coming to you from the Ashner Health podcast studio. Shout out to Ashner for jumping on our show and being a big supporter. Their support of us is going to help us bring great training camp coverage all throughout August. So make sure if you have any health needs, you go and check them out. And if you are in the market for a new car, check out my guy, Matt Bowers. He's right next door to us on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. Got the Ford dealership there, but he has all types of dealerships all throughout the region. So make sure you check him out for your next car. They got great prices, great customer care, and they will give you a great car buying experience. And we're going to give you a great show today, right after we come back from this quick word from our sponsors. Ashner Health inspires healthier lives and stronger communities through a combination of standard-setting expertise, quality, and connection not found anywhere else in the region. To learn more about how Ashner empowers people to get well and stay well, visit ashner.org. Long live you. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJs Coffee. PJs Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Time for a new watch? Go check out Frand Company Fine Jewelers' wide array of Breitling watches at their showroom on Maple Street. They have every type of watch that you want, and they can get you right for any type of occasion. And while you're there, check out their engagement salon. They'll make sure you find the perfect ring for that special someone. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect watch, ring, or whatever else you're looking to buy. Visit them today. Frand Company Fine Jewelers, 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett, 504-866-5433, or visit them at frandandcompany.com. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Shaare Insurance, the Earhart agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Shaare Insurance, the Earhart agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Shaare Insurance, the Earhart agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Shaare worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Shaare. That's 504-326-6526. Shaare Insurance, the Earhart agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show. Welcome back to NewOrleans.Football presented by PJs Coffee, coming to you from the Ashner Health podcast studio. I'm Nick Underhill here with Brandon Thomas, and it is now time for the lead presented by Frand Company Fine Jewelers. Frand Company Fine Jewelers are the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints, and they should be your official home of your next Breitling watch. Make sure you go down there and check them out on Maple Street. Frand Company, they'll get you a great watch any occasion. They got casual watches, classy watches, whatever you need. And while you're there, check out their engagement salon. They got the ring for that special lady in your life. So next time you are in the market for some jewelry, make sure you check out Ken and them, and they will take great care of you. All right, B, what we got?
Welcome back, man.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Good to
You
be
feeling
back.
good?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the season. I'm excited about the season. I'm just excited to see what the Saints are going to look like this year, and I'm ready to go, man. Like, it's in the final countdown.
Sure.
You get that little bit of a break there, and then it's time to go, and I'm ready to go, man.
There we go. Well, let's go into the lead topic. Who is one free agent that you would like to see the Saints sign before training camp yesterday, Jamal Adams, he signed to the Tennessee Titans, so that's scratch one off the board. Who do you want to see him get before this thing starts off, man?
The Titans have putting together a little bit of a
squad.
Yeah, they got some guys, man. I was watching some Ridley highlights yesterday. He looks pretty good working out right now. For the Saints, I think there's a couple places that there's some obvious names. I'm not going to take away any of the obvious names. I think there's a few though that people kind of have circled. I was kind of looking for maybe somebody else that fits kind of a specific need for the Saints, and there's a few positions where I feel like they still need a little bit of help. And there's one guy though that I think would maybe kind of fit a little bit, and you probably have to entice him to continue playing football, because I think his intention is to not continue playing football. But if Fletcher Cox wants to suit up again,
he was on the list.
If he wants to suit up again, I think that's a guy that would. He's a 3-down player.
He is.
He can get you some sacks. He had 5 last year. He's obviously not what he was, I think, at the height of things. But yeah, last year he had 5 sacks, 22. He had 7. Like, I don't know how much is left there, but there's enough left to be better than kind of what the Saints have. I think he would shore up that group. He's a 3-down player.
Yeah.
But I have no idea if he has any desire to continue playing football right now. If he did, I bet he'd probably be on the team.
Well, of course, defensive line was going to be my initial take on just seeing through the list of who they had. They were very thin. Like, the only person I seen was Emmanuel Ogba, and I was like, well, he was injured before, and he doesn't have that. But Fletcher Cox, he has a laundry list of, accolades and stuff to go along with that. But he's out. He's out. You know what I mean? I can't see him in anything except for the Eagles colors. So I actually went with a safety and not Justin Simmons because, Justin Simmons is kind of like one of those, oh, well, yeah, give me him type answers. I actually went with Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson used to play for the Chicago Bears from 17 to 23. He had some pretty good early seasons in 18 and 19. He went to a Pro Bowl and stuff like that. So I feel like you get him in there just for training camp, even for just like teaching purposes. Just get people in there and help shore up and educate people. I can't see him doing anything on the offensive side, but Dalvin Cook and Hunter Renfrow are on the list. So, I mean, people have been saying Renfrow for the last 2 seasons. I don't see why you don't kick the tires on him also.
Yeah, no, he makes a lot of sense. He'd be somebody that would make a lot of sense to bring in. I think that they could use some depth at wide receiver too. And just for posterity, like Fletcher Cox did, he announced his retirement, but like I would throw a little bag at him and just see like, hey man, like are you willing to play right now? Right. I don't know that they need more maybes at defensive end, but like Carl Lawson's out there. He's probably kind of cheap. He had a decent amount of sacks for the Jets 2 years ago. Last year, he didn't do a whole lot. I think he only played 5 or 6 games, but he's somebody that you could bring in to at least maybe hold the floor a little bit. All these guys we got on the screen, like I wouldn't, like it's crazy. You could talk me into a running back right now because we got Dalvin Cook up there. Like you could talk me into a running back right now because like I just don't know. I don't know what the situation is behind Alvin Kamara. I don't know what the situation is with Alvin. I was checking in on that last week, and I was told no progress on anything. So, that may be one of those things that goes right into training camp, and we'll see how that looks. I think ultimately Alvin will probably end up playing, but it's something that's worth keeping an eye on. But I don't know what running back 2 is right now. I have no idea who that is. I have no idea if they got a guy that's going to step up and claim that. Right. So if you could bring somebody else in to kind of keep competing at that spot, sure, go ahead and do it. And yeah, I mean, look, Simmons at the right price, like I would go get him. I mean, I thought Tyron played great last year, but he's getting older and safety 2's kind of up in the air a little bit. And I think Simmons would probably be, very quickly maybe the best safety on the team. Like, so I would be willing to take a look at him at the right price, but I think he probably wants way too much money, and that's the reason why he's probably not signed right now.
Another unsigned running back, people, they got a taste of it 2 years ago when the Saints bought in Tyron and Jarvis Landry. Leonard Fournette, he just switched up his representation during this offseason, maybe like last week or this week or something like that. So he's out there. He put out a video just saying how he's still conditioned and everything like that. I think he finished the season last year in Buffalo, but I mean, you never know because you never know what the running back situation is going to be if Alvin decides not to show up. Yeah.
No, there's still work to do on this roster. There's a lot of questions. I just put out an article, kind of going through the questions. I came up with 24 of them, like things I need to answer. I mean, it's a decent list. I mean, every team I think is kind of like a if then, but like there are more ifs I think on this team than I can remember in quite a while.
Mike and I had talked about it on Wednesday, but we wanted to, hear your take on it. Who do you think will step up between Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller to be that, for all intents and purposes right now, number one running back if they have to?
I felt like Jamal had a better spring, but like, and I was truthfully a little bit concerned with how quiet it felt like
Kendre.
Yeah, Kendre's offseason had gone. Like, it just didn't seem like there was any pop, any flash. It felt like maybe he was a little bit slow picking up some of the stuff they're trying to do now. It just felt like he was, I don't know, like it didn't look like everything was together. I think there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time. Like, if I got to bet on just talent alone, like, I think Kendre has more talent.
Yeah.
If I got to make a bet right now, though, where it's like you're locked in and there's no variables, I would probably go with Jamal just because we've seen more in this offense to this point. Like, he had a decent offseason. I'm not taking Jordan Mims out of the mix yet, though. Like, he looked better than both of them, I thought, during these practices, and it looked like the coaching staff liked him. And I don't think these guys give a damn where anybody came from. Like, I think they're just cool with whoever steps up. That's how they're gonna let it shake out. They don't care about the pedigree. They didn't scout them. Like, these are just the guys that are kind of here, and they're gonna roll with them. So I thought Mims looked pretty good, but if I had to bet on one of the three, like, I would still, like, like, Jamal's the safe pick right now, but like, I'm not gonna believe that Kendre is beat out by Jamal or Jordan Mims until he's beat out by Jamal and Jordan Mims. Yeah. So I think he's gotta just blow this opportunity because I think he is more talented. He's younger. There's more incentive to kind of lock in with him. So I mean, I think if things click, I think he should be able to still do it. But I don't know. I was legitimately concerned about how quiet like his OTAs and minicamp were.
Yeah. Sticking with the running back position, that'll take us into our next segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. We got a chance to see the new season of Hard Knocks, the new off-season going into training camp season, because they have a lot of different things going on. They're following the whole like AFC North during the season. They have the in-season one. I forget who it is. It might be the Colts or something that they're going with during the in-season one. But the Giants, the traditional Hard Knocks, the Giants got chosen for that. And we got to see a real candid conversation.
No, this is off-season Hard Knocks.
This is the off-season. Because it's from the draft.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And it's been fire just to look inside of, the war room and different things that they have to do during that process. And one thing that stood out, that was a clip that started going around, is when they talked to Saquon Barkley and they're like, hey, we're going to let you test the waters. And he ended up testing it and he got signed by the Eagles. So you think it's time for the Saints to kind of jump on that train and let people start testing it when it gets, closer to that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that I think. Well, first of all, I mean, this Hard Knocks, I think is the best one. Like, I'm kind of over like training camp Hard Knocks a little bit. Like, it's just kind of like we live it and we've just seen it so many times. Like, this is just like legitimately like scouts, GMs sitting in a room talking. Like, that's every scene, and it's just kind of like all the behind the scenes. And I'm kind of surprised that Shane's like letting them in on like all this stuff. And I'm sure they aren't showing us everything, but it's revealing, like it's stuff we haven't seen before. So it's exciting to kind of see that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, they were talking about Saquon, and I think it's interesting because like by no means did they think he was washed, but it was just like our analytics show that at 27, like running backs lose speed and it's probably not worth investing in them. And they wanted to find out what the market was and everything, but they were unwilling to commit to him. But they were willing to make that risk of being done with the player a year early instead of a year late, 2 years late, or whatever. And yeah, I don't know, man. Like, just the way the Saints operate, I don't know that they even have the option of ever being early on separating with the player because the way they're just constantly restructuring contracts. And if Mike was here, he'd vehemently disagree with me. But like, I think there are just downsides to doing that. And I do believe. And this is what like me and Mike's like longest ranging argument is that like I believe and I think it's evident that like they get locked into these deals and they become hard to eject from because of the constant restructuring. And they've restructured 33% of their contracts like over the last 3 years. And the next team that's doubled what the next team is in the league. And I think there's just like a handful of things where you see it. Like because Cam Jordan has so much money left on his contract, I think it becomes hard to eject from that early because you're looking at it and it's like, well, he's still productive. We owe him so much guaranteed money. So to walk away from him, there's going to be a dead money cost. And that money is money that you can't spend on somebody else. Like now, granted, like you can keep working your contract a certain way to offset that, but it's still dead money and it's still part of the cost equation and you're locked into it a little bit. And I think it just becomes hard to walk away from Cam Jordan, Taysom Hill, Marshawn Lattimore, Mario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, like whoever. Like you can't be a year early on anything. Like even the Alvin extension, the last time when he was around that age, like obviously you don't want to walk away from him at that point, but there's just so much money owed to him due to restructures that you're in a position where it's kind of like, all right, well, like we could walk away from him, but then it's going to cost us this much money. Yeah. Then we got to spend money to replace him. And then there's just so much money involved in it. I just don't think that the way they operate, they have that flexibility to make those decisions. And I think they're looking at it again with Alvin, not so much, but like to a certain degree, there's a level of money there where you're looking at it. Cam Jordan gets another deal because you have money tied to him and because it just becomes, all right, if he's still productive and we owe him this money, we might as well find a way to make it work, lower his number, be able to go get other players, free up cap space. But now you're tied into him. So you're always going to be getting all the life out of them, but you're buying bad years at the back end because of the way you're doing this. And that's the downside to this system. It becomes hard to eject and you keep restructuring and then you end up paying for, you're going to be a year late on everything. It's just kind of the way they do it. And just like if you look at their cap next year, they're already like $16 million in dead money. And then Cam Jordan's going to be 35. He's 35 now. Next year, he's going to have $23 million still remaining on his contract. Taysom's 33. He's going to have $17.7 million left. Lattimore is going to be, or is 28. He has $20.6 million guaranteed remaining on his contract. Demario Davis is 35, $17.2 million. Tyrann's 32, $12.3. Like, there's no way to be a year early ejecting from these guys, walking away scot-free, like they were able to do kind of, you know, what with Saquon or other teams are able to do with them. Is the Patriots were always a year early walking away. And it's like, yeah, the downside of that is you go see somebody thrive somewhere else, but then year two, there's injuries or whatever. And it's always, I think it's just always better to be early getting away than late, because then you're bringing in young players and you're trying to rebuild your core and you're building towards something. But the way the Saints are built, it's just kind of like they're going to get the last year out of everybody. They're going to try to win their 10 games. They're going to try to make the playoffs. And like, that's just kind of what they do. And, you know, the conversation around them is that like, they're terrible or whatever. No, they aren't good. They aren't bad. They're just a team that's there. They're going to try to win their 10 games, and that's what they do.
So how do you move on from that mentality? If clearly your point is that mentality might have worked at a certain point when you still had key pieces that were contributing, like Drew Brees and stuff like that, but now the fall off is very steep, very fast. So how do you move on from that mentality if you're in the front office?
Well, I mean, the biggest problem with their strategy is that they aren't drafting well. Like, they haven't really drafted well since 17. I think there's maybe some stuff in this draft that could be good, but they haven't consistently drafted well since then. So that's how you have to work it if you're playing the restructure game. You got to have young talent kind of coming in. But, like, the only way to do it is you kind of got to start letting these people age out of your system and paying your bills. And you got to be willing to be bad for a while. And they're trying to do a little bit of both. And, like, at some point they are going to pay these bills, but it's going to be past the expiration date. And it's just, like I said, if you're restructuring all the time, and again, Mike would sit here and argue against this, but like, I just think there's a downside to it. And I think that's it, is that you get tied into guys and you just don't really have that, like, you can't ever, like, if things are clean, you can sit down and say, like, should we pay the 33-year-old player or should we use these resources to try to get somebody younger? But you never can have, it's never a clean conversation. And they can act like, you know, the cap, dead money and all that stuff, like it doesn't matter. But like it does. Mickey's talked about it. Like, he doesn't want the dead money. He wants to get on the other side of it. But like, this is where they kind of exist, and it becomes a little bit impossible to kind of walk away from it. Like, you either swallow it and just let everything blow up, or you kind of try to, you know, it's kind of it's kind of like, you know, the snowball effect on like credit card payments. Like, you pay off one and then you take the money on that one and then you're putting 2 on one and then that one's paid off, it's 3 on one. Like, that's kind of how they're doing it, and they're trying to buy their way out of debt instead of going bankrupt, really. So, you know, there's no easy way out, but the only way out is to get out of it.
And then, I mean, at the same time, you have, I know they don't take consideration with like the fan base's quote unquote love for the players, but you know, you have people that are like, oh, well, they're getting rid of this person. This person was loyal to the entire time. how would you ever even remotely think about doing that? But like you're saying, there are benefits on dumping people early, not being married to people long term, because this game is constantly evolving. And you need to have fresh pieces rolling in that keep the team relevant in a certain sense and not be stuck in this pattern of mediocrity. So we just talked about it, I think, last week. You covered the team for going on a decade. Do you think the mentality ever changes?
Like around here?
Yeah.
They've talked a lot about wanting to change it. And I mean, I think there is a desire to kind of get things clean a little bit and get in a place where it's just not this. I mean, going back to the Giants example, and I don't think they're by any means the shining example of what a franchise should be. Like, they're not a good team, but like in this specific instance, like, yeah, I mean, there's a level of risk aversion, and the point they made about not paying Saquon is that they didn't want a $40 million quarterback handing the ball off to a $12 million running back. Right. And it's like, well, you probably shouldn't have that guy as your $40 million quarterback.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, take names off it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, when you have a $40 million quarterback, like, your running back can't be like one of the highest paid guys in the league. Like, there's a level of resource allocation, and you got to think about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, look, I think they want to be something else. I think they want it to be cleaner and straightforward and not be paying older players to kind of, do some of the stuff. And I think in a vacuum, every single one of these, like, I rattled off a bunch of them. Like, I don't really have a problem with Taysom where he's at in his career. Like, he's still productive. Like, yeah, I don't really have a problem at all with Lattimore, but 28 is getting old for a cornerback. And, I think that there is a little bit of a change in the way he plays. If you really, really like dig into the film, nothing that's like popping out, but like, I think there's a little bit of a difference. I don't have a problem with DeMario, like, on its own at his age. I don't have a problem with Tyron where he's at his age, but it's just kind of as a philosophy. And when you look at the list and there's like a bunch of them, it's kind of like, man, like, this isn't maybe the safest way to go about things. Like, these are the kind of things that kind of blow up on you. Like, if you do Cam alone and then Cam gets hurt like last year and it doesn't end maybe the way you were hoping when you signed that contract, you're okay with it because it's one. Right. But like, it just like at this point as a strategy, it just becomes like, this is a lot of risk and the bottom's going to come out on this really quick. And if you have all these resources tied in on these older guys, like, where's the young core? Right. And I think that's the most concerning thing about the team right now is that, like, where is that young core? Like,
this year is so crucial.
There's some maybes, yeah. But there's nothing where it's like, all right, these young guys are going with these old guys and like you're building it up and then you go out and you sign like a bunch of Colin Saunders or whatever. Like, I think Parrington and them have done a great job of like filling out the middle with the cheaper players, but like, it feels like there's a lot of weight on those cheaper players because like you haven't drafted great since 17. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, it feels a little bit like a little bit shaky.
You're putting bridge pieces in, but you're telling the bridge pieces, hey, we need you to be.
They got to be foundational.
Yeah, we need you to be the foundational pieces. So it's a very critical year for players like Isaiah Foskey, Peyton Turner. I mean, I know I'm talking about the defensive line right now, but even Kendrick Miller, we're about to see it, depending on what Alvin does hey, you can't rely on, these type of people to be your primary playmakers. You can at some positions, but not across the board at all these different positions. So it's very interesting to see. We're going to hit a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of our top areas of concern going into training camp and hit the Martin's questions of the day. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating, service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Shrimp Rummelog combos are back at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Zesty shrimp rummelog served with fried shrimp, catfish, or soft-shell crab starting at $10.99. Or try one of our spring specials, catfish lafitte or lemon caper fish with crab meat. Now at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Welcome back to the Ashner Health podcast studio. It is now time for our next segment presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Hey, man, what is one area of concern? I know there's multiple, but just one area of concern on the Saints roster right now going into training camp.
Number one area of concern going into training camp. I got to pick one. I mean, let's just take Penning off the table. Like the Penning, both tackle spots. Let's just take the offensive line as a unit off the table, because like that's kind of.
Oh, you fried my answer.
It's kind of cheating.
But yeah, let's dig deep. Let's dig deep.
Yeah, I think for me, number one, I mean, what defensive ends are healthy? Like, who's productive?
What would Chase Young be?
What will Chase Young be?
What will Chase Young be?
Yeah.
That's the question.
I don't know.
Because coming off of the injury, I mean, we saw pictures, workout pictures, but we haven't, seen him actually do stuff on field yet. We've heard good things. It haven't come time to see him yet. So what will Chase Young be? Who's Peyton Turner and Foskey come the end of the summer? Who's, a whole bunch of
definitely the biggest question, I think. And if those all hit, like my win total changes. Absolutely, 100%. But yeah, we got to see what he is. I haven't been able to get any like definitive concrete information about Chase Young. I just don't think it's out there yet. Like they'll be back. I think the vets report next week. So they'll be back and people will get a look at him and they'll kind of find out where he's at. So some info should start coming about him sooner than later. But yeah, I mean, he's the person I'm most intrigued to see overall, and I hope he's out there at the beginning. I'm kind of not counting on it, but we'll see where it kind of shakes out. I'm just going to be pessimistic about it until I have a reason to be optimistic about it. So we'll see how that goes. He's going to be rocking the New Balances though. So
come on, man.
Yeah. He's like,
I saw the new.
Yeah. They got football cleats out now, so he's taking care of his feet at least. So
for sure.
That's one thing.
Shout out, you know what I mean? I saw Lil Marv. He had some cleats. I'm like, boy, New Balance, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're in the football game now. So they got that going on. Number two, DT. Let's just stay there. Like I got major questions about DT. Right. If they can stop the run, I mean, I think things are a lot easier for them. If they can't stop the run and you aren't rushing the passer well, like it starts to fall apart kind of quick. So. Those are the probably the two big ones for me after the offensive line.
After the offensive line, and not counting what you just said on the defensive end and defensive tackle, I think you got to go to that latter half of the wide receiver depth chart and look at the depth there. You don't know who's going to, Mike, he's a big proponent of Cedric Wilson, but, like you guys always say, everybody who's a veteran looks great in camp, you know what I mean? So I think Cedric Wilson, from what, when we were at the owners' meetings, I got a chance to talk to Mike McDaniel about him, and he was saying how he's just such a team guy. And especially, he was on a roster with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, arguably in your eyes, the best receiver in the league right now in Tyreek Hill. I got to go with, hometown cat Justin Jefferson. But, yeah, him being able to still fit in there and then coming down here behind Chris and Rashid, I think he has a chance. But, St. Brown, he was doing good during camp, but, he wasn't on the team, you know what I mean? So there's a reason for those different types of scenarios. And A.T. Perry, you don't know who he's going to be. And
Yeah.
Who's going to be the contested catch receiver? And also on that same vein, tight end.
Tight end's a big one.
Yeah.
Tight end's a big one. It's huge. Yeah. I mean, you need somebody to show whether it's Holker, Jacobson, or man, what's the other cat they just signed? One of those three guys like need to show that they're worthy of like earning it. Like you want them to claim a spot, not just kind of get one because the numbers are there and Juwan's hurt and like, you know, just kind of what that situation is. And then Juwan's a huge factor too. I mean, there are a lot of questions just kind of just all the way across the board with this team. There's a lot of possible answers, but like there's a lot of stuff that needs to just legitimately be answered.
Yeah. And that'll take us into our next segment presented by Shaare Insurance, the Earhart agency. Has anything happened this offseason to change your overall win total?
I think it's the process that plays out every year though. Like I think I'm a little bit less negative on them now than I was January, February.
Okay.
I think you'd be a fool not to be optimistic to some level about the offense. Just look, I think Kubiak has a lot to prove, a lot to show. I don't know that I'm anointing him anything before we see him, but I am anointing him as being different than Pete Carmichael. And I think just the idea of change in and of itself is something that is something to be optimistic about. Like, let's see. Like to this point, yeah, it looks great, but like it's kind of like when you get a new broom, like you start hitting the floor and you're like, damn, this thing is great. And then, you know, you kind of find out what it really is and how long it lasts. Like once those bristles are worn down and you're kind of, you know, doing things a little bit more regular and you get to know it. So we'll see how that looks after some time. But, you know, I think I'm optimistic about that. I think the way Derek Carr ended the season, like I think that's a reason for optimism going forward. Like it felt like he settled in. There's no doubt that like him, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, like we saw all those clips when dude that does the QB school video put him out, like was showing all the frustration and people throwing their hands up and just being pissed off at each other. Like when it was kind of like compiled all together, it was like, damn, this is like really bad. And like we were seeing it kind of, you know, and feeling the tension a little bit it behind closed doors and all that stuff. But I think by the end of the season, like that absolutely shifted. Like Chris and Derek had good chemistry. Rashid and Derek had good chemistry. So I think them all getting on the same page is something to be optimistic about. I don't know that they're going to be any different win total wise or whatever, but like, yeah, there's reasons that I think I feel less pessimistic about things than I was before we kind of saw how things were going to be able to come together.
And I'm definitely in that same vein. My win total hasn't changed, but I'm way less pessimistic because I went through and made a list kind of like of the positives. Okay, you draft Fuaga and McKinstry. That's going to bring you up. Lattimore comes back to practice. So the question out of that, you know, it's still kind of on the table, but it's less likely now.
Yeah.
So now he's in the building. Then continuing to going up. You see the accountability that the offense now has during practice from top down, you know, from Derek Carr down to the last undrafted free agent that's, you know, on the fringe. And then you start going into the negatives. Well, Alvin left practice. He's
gonna play.
All right. Well, let me know.
He doesn't really have enough. Like, there's nothing he can. There's nothing he can really do. Like, unless he wants to retire, what can Alvin actually do? And
there's no leverage here.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to continue his career, that means he's got to play. He's got to play, and he's got to. The better he plays, the more money he's going to make from somebody else.
Right.
So
yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Like, it's kind of. But look, I mean, Alvin's got a lot of interest. He's got a lot of interest. Like, if you follow him on IG, like and it feels like he's kind of deliberately letting
people know.
Yeah, because
he was on a podcast. Like, I rarely have I ever seen him talk.
His story's updated every time you go on IG, and it's like he's at a fashion show. He's at NASCAR. Like, he's doing something. Like, he's got a lot of interest outside of football. So I could definitely see Alvin just being like, I'm done with this. I'm walking away. I just don't think that's where he's at yet.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, I think he's going to ultimately end up playing.
Yeah, and then that's great to see. That's great to hear. But still going on that list of like negatives, like when Saldivari got hurt, it got kind of thin on the offensive line. So, you know, it kind of evened itself out a little bit, but I'm way less pessimistic than what I, you know, kind of would have been if they just didn't more or less do anything. They had to do something, but they didn't do anything. And if all the moves they made and you go out there at OTAs and minicamp, you're like, well, bro, this looks like the same thing. Then you know what to prepare for. But now it's kind of like, we'll have to see, but you know, I'm looking a little bit. I'm looking over the fence, but I ain't half it, you know. So it's interesting to see.
Linebacker's a better position. Safety might be worse. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're
Marcus May never played a full season, so
yeah.
Is it worse? You know what I mean?
But like now your backup who kind of wasn't able to just steal that job from Abram at the end is now
hurt, yeah.
theoretically your starter, or it's Abram. Like the position's a little bit worse, I think.
Well, that makes it look better for our list of people we would like to see added.
yeah.
Well, let's get into our Martin questions of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Today's first question comes from John. John asks, is it possible that we see more offensive starters in preseason games?
It's a good question. I mean, Kubiak's new. I don't really know what his philosophy is on that stuff. I mean, they do have the joint practices against San Francisco, so I doubt we see the starters in that game.
Yeah.
They'll get a lot of work that week. I don't know. I mean, like the chemistry factor last year was a little bit problematic. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see some offensive linemen get extra reps in the preseason, but like Derek Carr and them, I don't know. I bet it ends up shaking out kind of being the same.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to see what they got going on during those joint practices. If people, are coming sluggish or whatever, DA might want to make a statement and make them play a little bit more going into the second quarter or something like that. But you have San Francisco, Arizona, and then you come back down here for Tennessee. So they have some opportunities. You just never know. I don't know. Maybe coming back when they come back to the Dome, because that'll be a month away from the team, not really seeing people at joint practices and stuff like that, to give the people a little chance to see the starters and stuff before that first opening game against Carolina. It might be, a little taste just to see. Today's second question comes from Michael. Michael asks, who is most likely to be a double-digit touchdown scorer in 2024?
Nobody. I mean,
you think they share the wealth like that?
Who's the double-digit guy? Like, they didn't have one last year. I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone that's realistic. I mean, like, Alvin's probably maybe the most likely, him or Taysom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Taysom's going to get more involved in the passing game, though, to get there. It would probably have to be Alvin. Like, I don't see Olave scoring 10. I don't see Shaheed scoring 10. No. I don't see A.T. Perry scoring 10. I don't see Kendre Jamal scoring 10. Jawan's not going to score 10. Foster's not going to score 10. So I would say nobody.
You would say nobody, but if you had to put an order together, you would say Alvin 1, Taysom 2, and Olave 3?
I'd probably put Olave before Taysom.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I think if Olave gets to that 9-ish kind of range, then the tier level in my mind of him as a receiver in this league is going up.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it. Yeah.
And that means things are clicking. If people are scoring, whoever is scoring the double-digit touchdowns on this team, that means things are going right. What do you think the win total would be when somebody crosses over the double-digit touchdowns? What do you think it's going to be?
I mean, you got I mean, you're probably 10. If you got like a real weapon, that means that probably everybody's elevated a little bit. Yeah. So, I mean, and then he's pulling coverage now, and now Rashid's getting better looks, and I mean, no doubt about it. So, I don't think they're gonna have one though. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. He was very excited for the season coming up, like he said.
Oh yeah,
training camp, it's close. It's coming up. So if you're not subscribed to NewOrleans.Football, make sure that you're locked in, because NewOrleans.Football is gonna have the latest regarding the Saints throughout this offseason. Overtime is next. Keep it locked here. Catch you next time.